Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro and Erik Anderson of AwardsWatch.
Good evening. This is Erik Anderson of AwardsWatch with Brother Bro and the Oscar expert.
Now, aside from being insulted that you went with Brother Bro first, Erik Anderson is a legend, a prognosticator legend, whose website is AwardsWatch. Always is going on there to check out his predictions. And there are dozens of other articles on there. He's also on Twitter, and he does a great job, fantastic job tweeting. He's really got this Twitter thing down. And we're going to discuss Oscar nominations, snubs, surprises, maybe even what we think could win, all that stuff, all that fun stuff, some new stats that were broken.
And whatever Erik wants to talk about, we'll discuss. So
yeah, even if
he has any wild
unrelated.
card topics, we're going to let him do it. Because he's
It's just going to be 90 minutes about cats. Not the movie, but like the animals.
Yeah. Do you have any cats that we can see right now?
No, we have 3, but they're not in here right now.
Okay, they're just like in the basement or something.
No, it's a nice day, so they're outside playing.
Oh, you let your cats outside. That's nice. We have one cat
Yeah.
that will go outside, but the other ones are like bad at being outside. They will
Ours
they'll
are-
just become like a scared ball and they'll hide in a bush.
They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Ours are very, very good. They patrol the neighborhood. They beat up other cats if they come like near our house. They're pretty awesome.
Do they like
Law
kill-
and Order cats.
Are they murderers? Do they like kill other small animals?
Oh, yeah, birds and voles and stuff. They bring them in all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, they're gifts for you, so I hope you appreciate them.
We love it. I love it when they do that.
Yeah, I hang them on the wall when my cat brings in animals.
Our little girl cat, the boy cats would always bring in animals, and she would bring in like twigs and leaves. So we called her the vegan huntress for like years.
I'm glad that she has an environmentally sustainable diet choice.
She is the most sustainable of the 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely sustainable to like find your own voles to eat. So anyway, we got to talk about the madness that's been, the Oscar nominations. Like, how does your overall feeling on them? Were you happy? Were you upset at any snubs?
I was definitely upset at snubs because, that's just par for the course for every year. But this is probably one of the very best set of nominations overall in, I would say, my lifetime. And probably, I think they're pretty incredible overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And how did you feel about the I mean, I guess we'll go through every category more, but this is more like subjective. Like, how did you? Well, you know what? It's all kind of subjective, isn't it? Let's just start with Best Picture. Like, snubs for you, surprises. Were you upset that something didn't get in?
Yeah, I mean, I had predicted 9, and I couldn't really track how The Father was going to play because it had been doing kind of poorly up to that point, other than the Globes.
Yeah.
And so I had it just out at number 10, and I had Ma Rainey and One Night in Miami in, which I think was a pretty common prediction. I did see people that had Ma Rainey out, and at first my thought was, you're crazy. How's that possible? Because it has
we
the
thought the
Best
same
Actor
thing.
winner in it. But, they were right and I was wrong, and so there you go. But those 2 snubs were pretty big, and they're big in the context that this was a banner year for Black-led films and Black-directed films. And then the Best Picture nominees only had 1 when they had the opportunity to nominate many, many more. So it reminded me a little bit of how BAFTA did what they did with extremely diverse directing and acting nominees. And then the Best Film nominees were the opposite of that.
Something nuts that I realized is that if you look at the SAG Ensemble nominees now, only 2 of those got into picture, and it looked like we could have gotten 4 or even 5. Like, I would have never predicted it to be under half. What was it? You have anything to say about that? Oh, so when a movie gets snubbed in this current system, which obviously we're getting rid of next year because it's going to be a full 10, it means that the movie didn't get 5% or more number 1 votes. Is that right? Or do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that simple. And I think it's going to be one of the things that creates this kind of outcome with more and more and more members invited every year.
Yeah.
And one thing you can look at, go look up Walt Hickey on Twitter, because he does this absolutely brilliant breakdown of what the new membership looks like and how it's shifted. Because, you know, we've watched it grow every year between 600 and 800 people, and those are really exciting numbers. It went from like 6,000 to almost 10,000 in a matter of 5 years. But the big deal is which of those branches have increased the most. And the acting branch increased the least. It was like 16%. And they are the largest individual body. It was other branches like documentary and sound and animated and visual effects that saw huge number growth. And that is going to shift Best Picture in a way that I think we weren't really expecting.
Do you think that reflected this year, or you think that trend is still catching up?
I think it's probably catching up. But I do think that it has, in the last couple of years, this year being a non-blockbuster year, it exists in a vacuum in that sense. But I think it's the reason why we get things like Bohemian Rhapsody and Joker and A Star is Born and Black Panther, because these are massive films where these branches all have people that worked on these films, were a part of. And I think that lifts them up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the BAFTA's decision to only allow a jury to choose, like, just because we're on this topic, the incentive was mainly for allowing more people of color to get into directing and acting categories, because I believe the year before they had absolutely nobody.
None.
Which I can, that's definitely hurtful to be a person of color, and seeing that. No people who look like you, or even no people in another non-white group are being nominated. So I understand like where all this incentive comes from, and I think what the Academy's doing makes a lot of sense. Like, what do you think about the BAFTA decision? Because it was very, we have sort of like, I mean, it's weird to say we're criticizing it like it matters, like our criticism matters, but it's strange to have such a small group of people nominating in those categories, although it was very effective in giving them, the result that they were looking to achieve. What's your take on that?
Well, I think you said exactly that. It was very effective. And when you look at what happened in Best Film, it highlighted even more that it was kind of necessary. And I know this isn't a permanent thing that they're going to do. It's kind of a stopgap. But for a voting body to be this kind of, I guess, open about how things need to change and the way that they're going to do it is kind of impressive, even though the juries were secret. But, and only had to be 50% BAFTA members. And I know a lot of backlash happened from that. I didn't really see it so much as that. But it really did highlight the places where BAFTA membership has clearly failed. And they are also doing a massive increase, I think, of 1,000 members and outreach and all of that. But, they have to show real results and not just say they're going to do things the way that the Hollywood Foreign Press was like, yes, we will make changes. And until, they were put into a real corner, they didn't say exactly what those changes were going to be. And then they, the publicist said, we're not going to send anybody to your stupid fucking show. And then the Golden Globes were like, okay, sorry, we're going to add 13 black members. So you do really have to take people to task, not take them on their word, especially in this industry, very specific industry, and make what they're doing very transparent. And I think that's what BAFTA did. I think they did it in a way that not a lot of places would do. They revealed their bias in a way that was vulnerable, really. So it's
And
I
is
thought it
this
was
actually
great.
like, have they said this is a stopgap where this is just a temporary thing? We're going to do it for a couple years. Maybe once the membership gets more diverse, then we'll go back to letting everybody vote in these categories. Is that how they're planning to do it?
I don't think they did. I just think that that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And
I would assume that
I,
too, but I just haven't heard either way.
I think what the plan though is that they will do, you know, chapter voting and long lists and things like that. And I think the long lists are extremely effective.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And I wouldn't even mind if the smaller groups chose the long lists and then everybody got to vote chapter wise for nominations and winners. Because once you've got, you know, 15 things to choose from instead of 400, I think it's more realistic that you can see more things. Because, you know, it would be great if Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always had been seen by more people, but it was not going to be a high priority film. You put it on a list of 15 films, it's going to get seen, and then its chances rise. So I think creating a long list that is more diverse is where they're going to benefit. So if they flip that around, I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, or I think, I mean, I would be like in favor of the Oscars even doing a long list. I mean, maybe keep it like a little longer or something, but you know, and also
I'm
having a jury
very
there
in
to
favor of
like
that.
make a couple saves. I think that's kind of a cool idea to make sure that there aren't like overlooked performances and make sure that people can like watch them. Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
very much in favor of that. And each branch of the academy has you know, people leading it that could be those executive decisions. And I mean, one thing I don't like that, you know, both BAFTA and the Oscars do is that each group, and Oscars specifically, the branches have very different ways of voting. Like the music branch has that, you know, number-based system. And I think it would be better if all of the branches had a little more parity in how they come up with their nominations.
yeah. I also want to ask, like, I guess we will never really know the answers to this until we know, like, you know, the films that got delayed this year, like, what kind of players they'd be in the future. But, like, there are so many movies like Sound of Metal, Promising Young Woman, Minari, The Father, that I would imagine, you know, if they were in another year, it would have been really hard for them to squeeze in. But this year,
Absolutely.
they were able to, like, really package themselves. Like, every nominee got 5 nominations, almost all of them got 6. For, you know, I think it was cool that movies like Sound of Metal were like, yeah, editing, screenplay, 2 actors, like a sound win, and picture. I mean, and if that movie came out the year that it was played at Toronto, like last year, I couldn't imagine that getting many nominations at all. But like, what do you I guess what would you have to say about like those films that got like an extra boost from a limited competition?
Well, I think one of the great things about the Best Picture lineup too is that every one of them has an acting nomination, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's really unusual. And that speaks to, these are like real nuts and bolts films that have reach in all of like the top 8 categories. And I think, you know, this year, if it had not been the pandemic, we'd be seeing like, you know, Dune and obviously a lot of much bigger films, French
West Side
Dispatch
Story
and West Side Story. We would be seeing these really big epics that, you know,
Nightmare Alley. I mean, Nightmare Alley is probably gonna be a good movie, but that's like a 10 nomination movie potentially.
Yeah, that already would. And just think about those movies. That's, you know, that's 4 things right there, but that would be knocking 4 things out from this year, which is, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about next year of what it's going to look like with all of these movies. I mean, what are the independent movies that are going to be able to break through? Because that's always the argument every year, is that which 2 or 3 independent films are going to break through to get into picture, director, screenplay, and all that.
Mhm.
Whereas this year we had all of them.
Yeah.
They all got in. And
Next year you'll have 10 nominees though. So
yes,
in a way,
Yeah.
you you still have a more likely shot at those movies getting in. But what I found interesting was that, you know, I would consider Sound of Metal like a sort of movie that may not have happened a year outside of the pandemic. I would not consider Ma Rainey and One Night in Miami movies that would easily get snubbed in a normal year, which is why it was surprising. I had those above those movies, like thinking, you know, these are just kind of the movies that are locks for Best Picture. Like they please the crowds. They get lots of acting nominations. Ma Rainey had so many technical nominations as well. Like it's strange that those are the movies that didn't get in. It's almost like the steam built so strongly around these indie films that they were able to overtake those baitier films that I think could have gotten in like in a normal year as well.
Yeah, and ultimately it's always going to be about getting your film seen, and even in this pandemic year, that doesn't really change a whole lot of how something gets seen, because you're gonna Academy members are getting screeners or watching it online in the screening room. What they're missing this year is the parties and the buffets and the free alcohol and the
so they can't just be bought as much. I mean, I guess it costs. Do you think it costs as much to campaign, or you think it's actually cheaper this year?
I mean, obviously it's been cheaper because there just aren't enough. There aren't parties to put on, so that there isn't money to be spent there. That extends to advertising too. And I had a strange early season where I was like, okay, I'm not going to get very much advertising because there's no box office, so these studios don't have any money. And that kind of changed a little bit near the end, but I do think that you get these old voters, you know, that are lifelong members that only come out to these parties, and they want to, you know, meet the potential nominees, and they do their little hobnobbing and stuff. And those are real voters, you know, and they can be impacted like that as much as they can be by things that they're passionate about. So I think that might have had a little bit of impact. I think there's clearly an example of sort of like reliable old voter stuff like The Father. But, you know, then why didn't News of the World get in? Because that was between that and Judas and the Black Messiah, those were the two main studio pushes for the season. And, you know, Tom Hanks being a non-factor the entire time, even though he was the COVID poster boy, and the film just massively underperforming all the way up to the Oscars, it's a bit of a mystery, but it's kind of a good one to me because it is a great film. It was very well reviewed, but voters still said, no, let's go with Sound of Metal and Promising Young Woman. They made that choice across the board.
Yeah, it really feels like they went with what they were super passionate about. Like they went with the movies that were everybody's like actual favorites of the year.
Yeah, I think at the end of the year, I found myself really looking like, okay, what are the best movies of the year? And that's when I think Sound of Metal started doing really well, and people were saying, wait, no, Sound of Metal is one of the best films of the year. It's like, this isn't just going for people, it's on their top 10s, or it's like their very favorite, or Riz Ahmed's their very favorite performance of the year. And that's what really helped it, because that could have easily been drowned out. But because people are like hungry for the best films of the year, like they're going off of those kinds of recommendations, not just like what's been marketed really well. I guess we'll get back to like the promise of the video, which is like snubs and surprises. So would you swap out anything? I mean, yeah, I kind of like we know the surprises in the best picture category. Would you change it at all, like for your personal preference? I mean, would you have switched anything? Maybe you wanted like Never Rarely get nominated, but I don't know if that's like realistic enough to like say you're disappointed that it didn't. I don't know.
Well, I mean, those are two different questions. I mean, would I take something out that was a sure nominee for my own preference, or am I looking at it like what was close?
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I said, I had The Father in at number 10. Clearly, it was not number 10.
Yeah, same.
It got editing. It
production
It
design.
got the production design. Two of the things that it should have been sailing through the whole season with, because they're crucial parts of the film. So I'm not sure. Judas and the Black Messiah is the main film that came on at the end at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do think it's really funny that HBO Max timed it so that it would be pulled from HBO Max the day before nominations came out.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I want to like tell people, oh, like Judas got nominated. Like, you should see that. Oh, wait, well, whenever I don't.
Now they have to go see it in theaters, and it's just like it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird because it was, it's not like they didn't know when the nominations were come out. They could have put it at any time.
So the director category, if director category.
Yeah, let's talk about the director category.
I mean, are you happy?
Erik predicted Thomas Vinterberg.
Oh yeah, he told me that you were predicting him, and I was like, come on, that's far fetched. I'm not gonna bite that.
Absolutely legendary.
And how did you decide to do this?
So, I mean, yeah, this was the fun part, that it was going to be Vinterberg in and Sorkin out, even though I think Trial is still the front runner. This was more instinct. It is getting a little bit easier to predict the directing branch of going for a European director that they really dig. If Cannes had been in a normal year, another round would have been there, and either Mads Mikkelsen would have won, Vinterberg would have won, or the film would have won. So it would have been closer to Cold War than what it ended up being. And even though I was certainly using that as a bit of a barometer, it wasn't exactly it's not an apples to apples one because Cannes wasn't the same. But it was enough for me to think that the branch would do it, because they're doing it all the time now. And obviously it's the front runner for international feature film. I think Mikkelsen was very close in actor, probably 6 or 7. I think the screenplay was probably 6 or 7 too. And that was enough for me to go, okay, there's enough here for this branch to stick with Chung and Zhao and Fennel, and sub out one of these white male American guys. And I think some people were thinking it might have been Fincher for Mank underperforming, which it did. But it was always going to be Sorkin for me.
Yeah, I think we always said that he was in the chopping block for director, because this branch has had this trend of snubbing filmmakers that they really snub movies that are not taking a lot of like visual risks, I think. And so it just made sense that was going to be the one. I think all the other nominees, I would have been really upset not to see them there. And having liked Trial of Chicago 7, I didn't need to see Sorkin get a director nomination, because I didn't think that was a highlight of the film, is how he did it, or doing something in a daring way. I think he just he's almost like a studio director you could just put in front of like any movie, and he would do a decent job. It would be serviceable. It's kind of like TV, but they really treat the director's branch like a craft branch. And and Vinterberg, it's interesting he got in because he's been respected by directors like since his first film, and it's like a deep respect for what he does that's unique. And so they were rewarding him like they would in any crafts branch, where you can pick outside of the Best Picture nominees and go for something that actually did a specific achievement. So I appreciate that director is like that, because I don't think he always was.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And there was no way I was going to go for the A top. They haven't done that since 2009.
It's always exciting, and they always do something that I like what they do normally. So
I mean, I'm really glad that they stuck with Fennel. Obviously, Zhao is going to always be in there, but I'm glad that they stuck with her for the history of it, obviously, but because it's kitty. It's one of the best films of the year, and it is a very directed film.
Exactly.
Her vision in the film is very specific, very unique. So it has the place in here. I love Chung's nomination because
Yeah.
even though the film is, visually rich from its cinematography, it's such a personal story that it didn't need to have the extra flourishes of something like Mank to get in and to stay in. So I'm really happy that he made it in.
Yeah, that reminded me of how they nominated like Greta Gerwig and Jordan Peele. Those movies weren't like big tech players, which is kind of what we think of when we think of the director category, but like they had a sort of new style and a new voice behind them. And I like that the director's branch goes for, one of those things. They seem to go for like either something that's like really stylistically heavy or something that's like where the director's voice comes through like really strong. And so, Sorkin almost
stuff.
like Sorkin and Regina King's movies were like not quite enough of one of those maybe to get in. Maybe Regina King's you could argue is like a new voice though, but that maybe it was more of a writing voice. I don't know.
Well, and that's an interesting thing because they also really do like directors that write their own stuff. Which again, that was also 2009. All of the directing nominees wrote their films. And
Wait, did
all
that
but
happen
David,
this year?
No, all but David Fincher.
Because Fincher, yeah. Wow, that's a lot though.
Although it's obviously close in relation to that, but everybody else did. Everybody else was the writer of or adapter of their film, so it creates a more singular vision, which I think is one of the things that the directing branch really, really cares about.
Mm-hmm. And all right, let's do best actor. I mean,
think everything was pretty predictable in the
Right.
acting categories.
everything in
for,
the acting category was predictable. So,
Stanfield. Except for Stanfield.
well, I guess except
we
for
could just talk
Stanfield.
about
Yeah,
that.
we'll get there in a minute.
We'll get there in a minute.
Because
I mean, we
actors
could go
and
through.
actor were easy.
Yeah, we can go through them quickly if we want. But
Yeah,
like,
the-
did you were you happy with these lineups? Like, did you want anything else in there that again, like, not whatever the hell, like, random movies you like, but were not campaign, but like something you actually may have been expecting or hoping for, like crossing your fingers for?
Oh, I would have preferred to see Delroy Lindo or
Yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen in over, Gary Oldman.
Yeah, everybody in like
Easily.
this sphere, who's like all the Oscar prognostication people seem to be like, why is Gary Oldman getting in when you have Delroy Lindo? Like, nobody is able to make sense of it, and yet
Yeah, and it happened everywhere.
it's happened everywhere. Yeah, it's just I don't understand it.
Yeah,
I agree though. Mads Mikkelsen, I think he should have been a Best Actor contender. And Another Round wasn't even like a top 10 movie for me. It's like, but his performance was clearly like, I think that was Oscar nomination worthy. And honestly, I wish The Hunt got like actor, director, picture. That was one of the best movies of that year. But
Yeah.
It did his due
Well,
sometime.
yeah, Binterberg getting in here, we're gonna have to look at the rest of every film he makes from now on and be like, So
Yeah, no,
so that's great.
yeah.
Maybe Mads gets the next film he does with him. Maybe he has to kind of wait a little bit.
I think he was really close. I think Mikkelsen was really close
Yeah.
to this, and as a middle-aged alcoholic, I would have loved to see representation. But
Didn't you get
it
it with
doesn't
Gary
always.
Oldman?
That's what he's saying.
He's
saying
too
despite-
old. I'm not that old.
Oh, I see. No,
Although
he's saying Mads.
Although he's only
yeah.
he's supposed to be playing what 43.
Yeah, Gary Oldman and Amanda Seyfried's character are the same exact age in real life. That's
Fuck that.
insane.
That's such garbage.
You
He
had a
looks
lot
like,
of alcoholic
like a stack of
contenders.
potatoes.
Yeah, I guess you can't deny someone who's playing an alcoholic a Best Actor
Ben
nomination.
Affleck. I was thinking Ben
Oh,
Affleck,
right.
and we
Well,
denied him.
sure.
And then you denied Mads Mikkelsen. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This could have been a category entirely of alcohol.
Yeah, pretty much. And then actress, was there anything on the outskirts that you wanted to see?
Sydney Flanagan. I mean,
Right.
absolutely, Sydney Flanagan. Just period. Stop.
Yeah.
Right there.
I think this is one of the best lineups in like recent memory. I mean, there's not like a weak link here, really. Even Andrew
No.
Day, like her movie might be not the best, but like she's great, and all the
She's
other
fantastic.
performances are like fantastic. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
don't
a
have
great line.
I don't have any complaints. I love this lineup. And
Who do
it
you
was
like
an
the
easy one to
best?
predict.
You're wearing a
Carey
Nomadland
Mulligan.
shirt, but you're a promising
Carey
woman
Mulligan.
stan. Okay. Carey
Yeah,
Mulligan.
absolutely. And that isn't anything against Frances McDormand, who
Right.
is absolutely brilliant. And there is, I mean, her performance is like 50% Frances McDormand, which that does not bother me at all when somebody is playing something, close to them or no. Because, when you're in the early days of acting, taking acting classes, one of the things they tell you is to pull from your own personal experiences. So if you can bring something to a role that you have some familiarity with, I just think that's going to make it richer.
Yeah.
And that certainly did for McDormand. I love that the plates in the movie were from her actual father. That was an incredible piece of information from the profile that Kyle
Did
Buchanan
they break
did.
her father's plates for the movie?
I think so, which had,
Wow.
maybe that was like her actual reaction,
Yeah,
So
I had no idea. That's pretty cool.
I love that. I love that kind of stuff. But
I thought
like,
her
broke her
performance. I mean, I was just wondering if if they
sad.
used them, maybe they broke them. I don't. But I thought her performance was like, yeah, it was her too. But because the second time I watched it, I was like, it's all about her listening and how well she can like blend in with everybody.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that she achieved that where I actually don't think a lot of people could have, or a lot of other actors wouldn't have been able to do it in the same way, where like they just completely blend. They're listening very intently, like they being a scene partner with all these non-actors, they have to bring a lot out of them by just like being present in the scene. And she was like very, very present in that movie.
I think it's so the idea that people playing themselves means they're not doing as much acting is I hate that so much, because it's
Me too.
It's like it's got to be so difficult to deliver lines on a page and make it seem like you're just you.
Well, Gary Oldman has said about his role in Meg
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
he
say
thought
that
it was
too.
harder to play this role than it was in Darkest Hour because he has to be himself, and it's a little uncomfortable for him. It's easier when you're caked in makeup and like a fat suit and you're just somebody else. Like in acting classes, they'll like you will wear a mask, right? And you'll look at yourself in the mirror in the mask, and it's easier to do a voice. It's easier to find a character when you have makeup and a costume.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
like,
harder to find that when you're
Jared
just
Leto.
you.
if you've ever tried like
Jared Leto, yeah. That's all he does, yeah. Exactly.
like acting as yourself is so uncomfortable, and I'm not saying I've done much of it, but just like the idea of that is much scarier than putting on a voice and a character. And
Yeah.
I think I would say like Paul Raci comes off a similar way in the movie that he does in real life, but like his performance is like
Except in real life, he's like
brilliant.
He's like a metalhead or I don't know
Yeah,
what he is.
he's
But he's got
he's
all
a
these
rocker.
tattoos and he's like his hair's down and everything. But yeah, that was also another one where it felt like he was playing a realistic real life person.
Yeah, and he was pulling a lot from
And
his
so
personal
that's why I was
experience.
scared. Is he going to get nominated for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody knows who he is. But
Right,
yeah,
which is
no,
great.
this is. I mean, I could probably go on about McDormand for a
Yeah.
long time because I really do love that performance. But
But
I
Carey
do think
Mulligan's even topping it.
what Mulligan does compared to all of her work is so completely different and so exciting, and I just think it's the most volatile performance of the year. And I just think she is absolutely incredible. It's my favorite performance of the year.
And
Wow.
do you think that she's gonna win?
I don't know now.
Who is it between though? That's my question.
I think it's
it's between
gonna-
her and who?
I
Do we even
think
know who the other?
I think her, Andra Day, and Frances McDormand are sort of in this
Yeah.
little loop right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, McDormand has to be considered because her film is Frontrunner. But
Right, and she might win the
Are they
BAFTA.
going to give her another win and 3 lead wins so quickly?
Yeah.
They sure, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
I don't
I
care
feel
about-
like
yeah.
whoever wins SAG is just that's going to be it, and I have a good feeling about Carey Mulligan there, and I think that a lot of people feel like we do about her performance, and they really want to vote for her, and like, I mean, yeah. And then I also want to ask, do you think that anything about the nominations makes you think that something else besides Nomadland or Chicago 7 has like a better shot to win Best Picture, or you have your eye out for something? I mean, I guess Chicago 7, some people would look at the director snub and say now it has a worse shot. Although, you could pretty easily say look at Peter Farrelly.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been switching to Minari and saying like Minari's gonna surprise at SAG and who knows what else. And my thing about that is like, I feel like you need a screenplay or director win, and I don't see Minari going down that road. I think Promising Young Woman,
you need one or the other.
Promising Young Woman, if has somewhat of a shot to take maybe PGA, and then that, I don't know. That's a long shot, but I think
just
that
because it
would
can
be
win
number 3 to
the
me.
screenplay award. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. I do think Minari is in third, but you have to look at what else can it win. Is it going to win screenplay over Trial and Promising Young Woman?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's not very likely.
You can't
Is it
just
gonna
win one
director.
award.
No,
Maybe supporting
it's
actress.
not.
Yeah.
So the only answers really are Nomadland or Trial, and that's only if Trial wins. Screenplay is probably going to win editing.
Yep.
I don't think Sacha Baron Cohen is going to leapfrog over Daniel Kaluuya.
No.
So, but what benefits Trial is the preferential ballot completely
Yeah.
over almost anything else. So
Because
which is
being
why
agreeable is a plus.
it's just consensus. It's consensus.
At the
You
same
have
time,
to be on the number 2 and number 3 as well.
at the same time, the preferential ballot favors number 1 votes like very heavily, and so
At
I think
first.
Parasite might.
Well, yeah. The point is like,
At first, yeah, but I mean, Parasite, like I would imagine that got a ton of number 1 votes too. So I feel like Nomadland's going to do that.
Parasite's a hard
Sure.
movie not to like. Though.
I'm scared. I do think Trial can win though. I don't think it's out of the question. I mean,
At
in your
all.
mind, do you think that it has to win PGA?
No. PGA has been so completely disconnected in the last 10 years. I don't think
Wow.
it has to be. No.
Okay.
It
But
would be
but they
insane.
do also use a preferential ballot. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be crazy if Nomadland won everything but the Oscar. In the year after, Parasite wins nothing but the Oscar.
I think
would
it's got to be Nomadland.
except
if winning.
that's not the kind of movie that does that. It's not a La La Land.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not
true.
that kind of movie.
All right.
yeah.
Supporting actress. Want to hash that out?
Did you? I'm curious if what were your predictions were here?
So I stuck with Jodie Foster because of the stat of the Globe win
Yep.
was so strong.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
did too.
strong. 45 years.
Really?
And,
45 years? I had
45
no
years.
idea. Oh my god.
Yeah, 1976 was the last time a Golden Globe winner in supporting actress didn't get Oscar nominated.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is Jodie Foster. She's a 2-time winner. Anthony Hopkins is here. It's the 30th, year of Silence of the Lambs. There were all of these things that converged that made sense. It was a late breaker, but it was doing really well at just the right
Yep.
time at BAFTA. So, she was doing interviews everywhere. We even had an interview with her. And I'm like, okay, if you're doing an interview with AwardsWatch, you're getting nominated. So
Of course.
I was pretty surprised, and obviously I still had Amanda Seyfried in 6th.
Yeah.
Although the
That
SAG
was
snub
exactly
was
what I
so
had.
weird.
Yeah, we had that.
So it was only going to really be, 5 of those 6. I didn't see Dominic Fishback as a spoiler, even though Judas clearly did better than, I thought it was going to do. But it didn't. No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there with her.
Yeah. If she got a BAFTA nomination and it was like the whole consensus of the BAFTAs, I would have considered her. But it wasn't convincing enough. I mean, just because the categories were so disconnected from what the Oscars were going to be, is like, I wasn't considering that as a factor.
Here's what I did with the BAFTAs, because it was that small jury and they were very purposely and actively going for a diverse set of nominees. I looked to the ones that weren't. I looked
Right.
to
Yeah, we took a lot of stock in that too.
I looked to the white nominees. I looked to Paul Raci and I looked to Thomas Vinterberg, and I'm like, Vinterberg was the only white male director.
I didn't think about
there.
that actually. Yeah.
So that made me go, okay, this is where they looked outside of the diversity agenda that they were going for to get people in that didn't fall under that, but they really, really wanted in. So that's where I kind of focused.
Yeah, I think they nominated all the white people from the BAFTAs except Barry Keoghan. I don't know. if that's right.
Yeah, but Barry Cohen was
who
not
you could make an argument that that's in a British film that the Oscars are not going to go for.
Yeah, I mean,
so if
no
you
one would
dismiss
predict
like
that.
those British indie films, and
Yeah.
then you look at
Which-
the white
which we
nominees,
do every
maybe
year
you
at the
have a
BAFTA anyway.
correlation. I didn't think about it that way.
That's true.
But yeah, Paul Raci was big there. I'm trying to think of anybody else, but I can't.
I think the lineup ended up like pretty nice. Some people hate that Glenn Close is in there.
I don't.
I don't hate it.
I
yeah.
think it's a
she's
good
really good.
performance.
Is it a good performance in a bad movie to you?
I
do you
do
like the
think the
movie?
movie's. I think the movie is bad, but I think it's just that it's poorly constructed, and it's mostly poorly directed. And even though it's obviously based on the guy's book, the decision to devote so much time to his section of the story, which was the worst of the movie, was a bad idea. If it had only been the flashback stuff with just Adams and Close and the younger version of him, and slightly better written, it'd be a better film.
All right, this is a really quick side note since we're on Hillbilly Elegy. Do you think a lot of people say the reason Hillbilly Elegy got trashed is because it's about characters, or it's about people who sympathize with conservatives? Like, they don't show it in the movie, but that's just like the facts. That's just that area, and it doesn't do anything to call them out, and people are upset about that. Like, do you think that's actually the reason critics don't like it? Because I tried to find examples of that, and they were kind of few and far between. But that's been from my research on it. Like, do you think this is an example of critics being like, extra harsh on a movie because of not calling them out? Or do you think it's just a bad movie and critics are just like, hey, this is bad?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know that the response was already going to be pretty bad for the film before it was even seen. The book was pretty unliked if you are a liberal or free thinking person. So I think the stones were set already for the movie to be hated. It just didn't help that it was also just a bad film. But
Right.
I do think that a lot of critics added an extra dose of hatred to it because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like you said, there is nothing like outwardly conservative about it, but it's just in an area that is going to be 100% red all the time.
Yeah,
And it does have that opening about
factor.
people don't know what we're like and whatever.
Mhm.
And it's
Right.
it's already kind of defensive. I don't think it helped that the writer who based the story on is an extreme and vocal conservative and went on tirades on Twitter during voting periods. I don't think that helped.
Yeah.
But it didn't hurt Glenn Close because she is bulletproof.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was gonna miss either.
No.
But I guess in the end, I
Rising
was thinking it was Seyfried or Jodie Foster on the chopping block, and so I guess I wasn't too surprised.
Yeah.
Did you want to see anybody else in here?
Talia Ryder.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking you were gonna say that. I agree. She's amazing.
I mean, my two biggest movies that got nothing were First Cow and
Right, you love
Never
First
Wear
Cow,
It.
too.
So
Yeah.
so
I
First
think
Cow. Oh my god.
when I look at movies that get snubbed like Never Rarely or First Cow, I think like it is partly an issue of them just not being movies that are widely seen. Maybe if the Academy saw more of them, like they would have gotten at least something. But I think the other issue is that like I think it's sometimes neglected by people who are sort of stuck in like the film critic sphere or like film Twitter, that like some movies just aren't appealing to people. Like that, like some people just find, they just categorize those movies as a nothing happens movie, and most casual moviegoers want something very plot focused and plot heavy. So it's like, yeah, I think there's a sort of a disconnect there. Like,
Are you saying people don't realize the disconnect? Like, what's your point?
I think occasionally, like when people were getting their hopes up for First Cow to be nominated, like when it was getting the Critics Awards, it was like,
Yeah.
you got to think about like what's more widely
Appealing.
appealing to people, you know?
Yeah. Well, I only stuck with First Cow and Adapted because
That was
an
something
that
I
was
could-
an
I considered.
86-year stat. 86
Yeah,
years.
yeah. I did
that's
consider
fucked.
these. So.
Yeah, I like that you
that
you actually
happened.
like put your chips on that stat. That's kind of funny to me.
And
It's
you
such a
know, I
weird
do
one. So it's
until
so
I
quirky,
do-
but 86
It
years
is,
is
and
like insane.
I do until it's done. But I think
Yeah.
I think there are multiple tiers of independent films, and we saw that definitely this year, where you have the Minari and the Promising Young Womans
Yeah.
of indies, and then you have the First Cow and Never Rarely's. Those are very different
Yeah, I
types of
agree.
indies. They also each are from studios who made a very clear choice of which to focus on. Literally, Focus Features said we're going all in for Promising Young Woman, and there was nothing left for Never Rarely.
Yeah.
A24 went all in for Minari, and there was nothing left for First Cow. And sometimes it's really just that simple, because again, it's about visibility. You can have a great deal of passion for a film, but if you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes.
Yeah.
You want to get to
I guess,
supporting
yeah,
actor?
so supporting actor, I think
What is the
what
question?
I-
Just like what the hell happened?
well, I
Is that
think
the
so
question?
what I understand about what happened, and then you can take it off from here, is that Lakeith Stanfield was campaigned in lead to the Academy by Warner Brothers, but the Academy is not required to, like, I think that the Globes and the SAG, right? They say if you're campaigned in lead, like, you have to nominate the person in lead. But at the Oscars,
You have to submit them.
you submit them, but they can write in wherever they want to.
No, like SAG, you have to submit to a category, and you can only be there.
Yeah.
Like last year, Kathy Bates was submitted lead at SAG, which is probably the reason she wasn't nominated. If she was in supporting,
That's
she
weird.
probably would have gotten in. So you have to submit to a category.
Yeah. And then at the
And
Oscars,
Globes can change it. Globes can change it.
yeah, and the Oscars, what happened? So they submitted supporting. I guess there's no, I don't know, they campaign supporting. There's no submission, right?
Okay, so you campaign supporting, and then there's a reminder list, but all you have on that reminder list is the actors. You don't have placements or anything like that. So it was entirely up to the acting voting branch of where they were going to put Stanfield and Kaluuya, for that matter.
But how do they go? Well, I know, like, don't they check? Like, don't they look at, oh, it isn't, oh, Daniel Kaluuya, he's supporting, right? I mean, it was obvious from the precursors, right? But
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't obvious because Stanfield hasn't received any lead acting nominations, so maybe they just didn't. Is this just a case that a lot of people didn't know his campaign was in lead, and they genuinely like thought he was supporting?
Or maybe they just,
Or was this a lot of people like ganging up, or not even ganging up, just on their own, completely isolated, every one of them making this weird decision that they like Stanfield, they want him as their in their nominee batch. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because there's no realistic way for, voters to collude to
Yeah,
make this
right. There's
kind
no
of
collusion here.
dramatic decision. But it is an unprecedented nomination of how it
It
happened.
actually unprecedented. Like,
I heard
there are no
Kate
other
Winslet
examples.
was a little similar.
For this category.
Okay.
What about in
for
any
this
other
category-
category?
Yeah, it's happened before. Keisha Castle Hughes is probably the most famous.
Oh, I saw you tweet about that. I forgot to look them up.
Yeah, and
When was
she
that?
was.
What year?
That's a long time ago. That's like in the 90s.
Oh, 90s. Okay, that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So she was push supporting, even though she is the lead, and that was like always the joke. It's like, who's she supporting? The whale, and for Whale Rider, that was the movie. So, and the Academy said no, we're putting her in lead. And the Kate
Will
Winslet
Rider
thing
isn't. Oh yeah, she's like really really young, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know
It's
about
like
this movie. Yeah.
9 or 10.
Oh, that's so
Kate
interesting. I
Winslet
didn't know
was
she
a little
campaigning
different
supporting,
because
yeah.
she had these two competing lead or possibly supporting, and it was the
Right.
Globes that really kind of screwed that up.
Okay, it's like where the
SAGs.
Globe, yeah, because the Globes did that with Alicia Vikander for that would have been kind of like the Globes say no, she's lead, But then they're like,
Yes.
well, we're going to campaign you in supporting because we're going to win you an Oscar. But then the Oscars, this didn't happen, but this would have been like the Oscars saying, nope, you're lead.
Yeah, it happened in 2000 and 2001 when Jennifer Connelly was lead at SAG and then won supporting at the Oscars. Benicio del Toro the next year was lead, but then won supporting at the Oscars, and that was a more decisive campaign decision. What happened with Stanfield is it's so remarkable because it was an unbelievably risky vote to give him supporting actor votes.
Right. Like thinking that this is going to help him, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I have to applaud them
Yeah.
for doing it.
It's a great
because
nomination.
Yeah, it
It's a
makes the
great
category
nomination.
pretty stacked that he's in there.
It's
Yeah.
and because it's so risky, but it doesn't. The thing that's crazy about it is that it doesn't track with any history that makes sense, because you can look at a movie like this which has, you know, either kind of two leads or two supporting, or, you know, Stanfield's character is the entry point and it is the point of view, but the movie's really about Fred Hampton, so it's Daniel Kaluuya's story. So you're looking at like Training Day or The Last King of Scotland, of examples like that, or even The Great Gatsby, where your in point isn't really the lead.
Mhm.
It's the person that they are talking about who has an overwhelming impact.
Even The Favorite
personality.
is that.
Yeah, The Favorite too is a great example.
Mhm.
And so this doesn't make sense. There's nothing about this that makes sense. It would have made more sense had Kaluuya been a surprise
Right.
lead nominee.
One of them has to go
And
lead,
then-
one of them has to go supporting. That would have made sense.
Because even though we've had now 3 movies in the last 3 years, 4 years, to have 2 supporting actor nominations after going 25 years before it happening, getting 2 lead actor nominations, that
Doesn't
hasn't
happen
happened
anymore.
since 1984.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
84, is that Amadeus?
Yeah.
Yep. They were great.
the weird thing about it too is that even I think in the examples that you're talking about of when this happens, typically those performances are actually like showing up and contending at the precursors, like in different categories, but like Keith Stanfield was almost nowhere. So I mean,
Yeah,
it was,
he got a Black Reel nomination, and that was. But
really.
I
that's
mean, I
it?
know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
that
Judas was kind of
that's it.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It only
I
started
know.
popping up at the end, with only with
It-
Kaluuya too. It was like barely.
it's and it took a little while, I think, for Warner Brothers to make the decision of who was going to be lead and who was going to be supporting.
Yeah.
Because when, you know, all of us were doing our early predictions, we didn't know, and they didn't
that's
know. So there was room. You know, we were like, okay, Lakeith is going to get in lead and Kaluuya's going to get in supporting. And
as
you
much
just
as I
didn't
can,
know.
as much as I can, like a lot of us complain about category fraud, because like clearly this is category fraud. Somebody's a lead. They're not both supporting actors. They're both leads, actually. It's like I cannot complain about Lakeith Stanfield being nominated for an Oscar because I know he wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. Like, and I can't complain about Daniel Kaluuya winning the Oscar because I think I wouldn't want to give it to anybody else in that category. And don't think I would actually give it to Paul Raci, but I don't think he's gonna win. I don't think he could win.
Yeah.
So it's like
No,
I
I
am
don't think
thankful
anybody
that they do that sometimes, because great performances end up like winning in supporting actor, even though they may not be a supporting performance. Like it's still giving another award to a great performance. So I now have a very weird relationship with that whole thing because I just want people to be nominated sometimes, and I know that, like, I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's great now that we have another person from Short Term 12 nominated.
Yeah, I saw that.
After,
Yeah. There's
You know,
3 people.
Rami
who-
Malek and Brie Larson.
Yeah.
It's like
Who's next?
2
John
of which have won
Gallagher.
lead actor Oscars. So this is a good.
Yeah.
This is a good omen for Lakeith Stanfield that, you know, maybe he wins lead actor one day, right?
Exactly.
It's like a good luck charm.
Exactly.
That would be really funny if that happened.
I have a very interesting question that I think a lot of people want to know.
Oh, you think your question is
answer
interesting?
to?
Huh?
Who's winning supporting actress?
Oh my god.
I just saw you melt down.
I know,
Crumble.
because there's a scenario in which I could see, you know, somebody winning the different person winning all 4 precursors.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I admittedly was very low on Bakalova, and I only put her in my top 5 the week before, 2 weeks
Same.
before my final predictions, because I kept pushing back on it that the performance was too crude and not the kind that's going to get in. She's not Melissa McCarthy. Even though that's the closest example you could get, but
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy has a position in the industry that a newcomer like Bakalova does not have. But it just became overwhelming, and there she is. She's in. So I think the front runners are her and Yoon.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think, and I was on the same boat. Like, it took until the Critics' Choice win for me to say, like, I think she's gonna get nominated. And now I'm predicting her to win because not only did she show up everywhere unlike everybody else, but I think her shot at the SAG seems pretty good.
Yeah,
And
it does.
I mean, nobody else has. The only other person to win something isn't there. And I don't know.
I received a healthy reminder about how weird it is that she's nominated, because I asked my dad, who's not like a movie buff, but he'll watch movies that I recommend to him. I asked him, like, did you see Borat? Like, I was telling him about the nominations. Like, Borat did pretty well. Did you see that movie? And he was like, yeah, I didn't know when he saw it, but apparently he saw it. And he was kind of off put by the whole thing. Like, he just thought it was like not his thing. Like, there was nothing about the movie that he was like, it was just too like crude or, crazy, or maybe just not funny. And I was like, yeah, so Borat got a supporting actress nomination. He was like, what? Like, she got nominated for like an award for that? And I was like,
An award?
Dad, first of all, she's great in the movie.
Yeah.
But second of all, like, yeah, she's getting nominated. And not only is she getting nominations, she's like winning awards for it. And he was like, it just never would have occurred to him watching Borat 2 that would have been nominated. And I was like, that just makes it like, it makes me like giddy inside that this is even happening, because I think a lot of people's mindsets would have been closer to that. And just somehow people pushed her, being like, no, this is art. This performance is art. I'm glad people accept that Borat is art too.
It all started with Sacha Baron Cohen when he was like, if she's not nominated for this, the Academy doesn't know what they're talking about. And
yeah, like that tweet was
they listened
the catalyst for the campaign. Sure.
Sacha Baron Cohen, when he says something that's like not in character, people really listen to him, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then Amazon ran with it.
Yeah, I think for her, I mean, pretty clearly the scene with Rudy Giuliani is the clincher. I don't think if that scene was in the movie that we would be having the same conversation. I think it's the thing that tipped the balance in her favor. And I say this with a bit of, I don't know. The Academy likes to nominate women in films where they're in very uncomfortable or sexually uncomfortable or sexually violent situations. It's just an unfortunate truth. And I think that this is an example of a woman who in very real life put herself in a situation that was incredibly compromising and extremely uncomfortable. And it was not the same as Carey Mulligan, for example, who was at every moment in a movie that was surrounded by actors and a full crew and blocking and rehearsals, all of these things. That was not the case for Bakalova, and what was happening was live and real and in the moment. And I think that there is a certain amount of appreciation, might not be the right word, but that's kind of the word. And I think it was the thing that pushed her over. And that was the entire conversation around the film. It wasn't really anything else except for that scene. And that's her. That's entirely her.
Yeah, they really pushed that scene to like, I mean, that movie was very successful, I think, on streaming. And I think that scene was their campaign. That was their marketing campaign.
Who would have thought it would get more
if
Oscar
we
nominations?
had had regular box office, it would have made $100.
100 million?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I know a lot of people who were like immediately the first weekend, they're like, I'm checking that out. And it's kind of the same reason you check out. I mean, there were like news articles on it. You know, it's free press that they had that situation happen. And that drove a lot of people to be like, oh, I'm watching this movie. And I got around to it late, and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you want to do? You want to like just kind of skim the technical categories?
Yeah, I don't think we need to go one by one.
We don't need to go into
Just
everything.
general stuff that happened, and like, and maybe we can even discuss like where you think like how some of your prediction strategies paid off, or like, you know, when you're looking at technical categories, like how much did you look at the BAFTAs and like did that pay off and that kind of stuff?
I did predict the Mank snub in editing, despite, you know, Kirk Baxter being a 2-time winner.
Yeah,
I was looking for places for Mank to falter, and I did have the screenplay in fifth because I did think it was vulnerable. So
why did you sense that Mank was going to falter somewhere?
It was looking even less likely than The Irishman at this point. And early in the season, it was clearly going in that direction, that it was going to be, you know, a nomination leader, but have almost no chance to really win anything at all, as well as being this decades-long passion project. And when you kind of have this build-up to that, and, you know, a whole bunch of the movie is about a 1934 election, and, you know, Louis B. Mayer having people work for free and all this, people were like, I thought this was going to be about Citizen Kane. I kind of wanted to see a little bit more about that. And I think it ended up being not quite the movie that people thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
overall.
Especially for David Fincher's like stylistic standards, what people expect from him.
I like the film, and I think it's, you know, gorgeous, and there's so much that I dig about it. And I'm actually a big fan of Amanda Seyfried's performance. I think it's really good. So when people say she doesn't do anything, I'm just like, nah.
No, she's great in it. I would have been, you know, upset if she didn't get nominated a little bit.
I love the nomination.
Did you think, oh, it could get, you know, knocked down a peg in screenplay as well?
Like I said, I had it in fifth as the most vulnerable, but I didn't.
That's smart though. I think like you take a little, like you put an egg in that Mank snubbage basket, but you don't go all out for it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And I had Judas in my sixth, so it's a lot of my alts ended up, you know, getting nominations.
Yeah, we got the VFX snub right for Mank. That was it though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had it in for VFX. I'm really angry. I am angry at that category.
Oh, really?
Because of Chechnya?
Yeah. I'm furious that Chechnya did not get it in. I mean, Love and Monsters. Come on.
I haven't seen it. I watched the trailer. I was like, this is the goofiest, like,
it's so funny.
Cutest Oscar-nominated film that's not in the animated category.
You know, I need to watch the trailer for that movie because I don't even know anything.
It's like, how did this get nominated for?
It's like a cutesy, like
it's like preteen, like thing, right? It's like, who's the main actor in it?
It's not
Dylan
Monster
O'Brien.
Trucks.
Dylan O'Brien. It's like you'd never think he'd be involved in an Oscar vehicle.
Yeah.
And the best picture nomination, I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was really out of left field.
Yeah, so I was disappointed. Tenet performed exactly as I predicted. Exactly.
Nice. You got that production design
and VFX.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was pretty happy about that. News of the World, I think exactly as I
did you do well?
It would do.
Do you go on Gold Derby,
or you can count your things?
I counted my own, but I did Gold Derby just like this year, and I haven't for many years. I think I got like 78%. If I did them the same, I think I did them the same because I did them like the night before or something.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, it wasn't a good score or anything like that.
It's like top 500, I think.
Oh yeah.
So that's good though, because top 500 is like out of 10,000 people.
Yeah,
But,
no, it definitely was.
yeah,
But
it sounds like you
was,
got a lot. You know, you had a lot going for. Yeah, maybe you.
it was
predicted some weird
fun. Yeah, I got a lot
shots.
of 5 for 5s. I was really happy to costumes as well as makeup because both are extraordinary.
Wait, can you say that one
I
more
love
time?
it.
You cut out
Pinocchio.
for a second. Oh, Pinocchio. Pinocchio.
Yeah, the costume nomination was really deserved. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Let's wait. So you're in visual effects. You were mad about what? Oh, because Chechnya, right? Okay, got it.
Yeah, well, I mean, and documentary, it missed both, and
You know, I
that
haven't
was-
seen it. Would you highly recommend that? Because I know what it's about. It seems really cool what they did.
I do highly recommend it. It is extremely, extremely difficult to watch.
Oh, okay.
It is harrowing. It's really hard to watch.
Did you think that was a
So-
lock? Like you saw it and you were like, "Wow, this has to get
Yep.
nominated."
I thought it was a lock for documentary because it was the only of its kind, and it represented a cross section of documentary features, you know, that often get in, where
Yeah.
there is a really just wildly, you know, diverse 5 different styles of films and subjects. So I was pretty shocked that it missed.
I
was
just
really-
like I want to watch it, but I'm also like, how much more can I take like on a personal level of them snubbing movies that I love? Like if I watch another documentary and I go, oh my god, that movie was amazing. Why didn't they nominate it for an Oscar? I'm gonna feel like it hurts after a certain point because I loved Boys State this year. I was just like, thank
Me
God
too.
they didn't nominate Time.
I mean,
they did nominate Time. Thank God, because I was worried about it. Because it's kind of a
Yeah.
slow movie. So yeah, but no, I mean, that wouldn't deter me from watching it. But they really just like rip my guts out in that
It's really
category
tough to
every
tell.
year. Every year, I love
I know.
Won't You Be My Neighbor. Like I love that movie.
Yes, yeah, me too.
So
It's, you know, I would definitely recommend one. So it's an important film.
mhm.
It's a really important story to watch, and it plays like a thriller in a way that you're not really prepared for. I mean, they're stopped at airports and have to. I mean, it's just terrifying to watch. It's terrifying to see the reality of that. You know, just period. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. What are some other categories that were like a little crazy? I mean, okay, well there was
I guess
screenplay category where Ma Rainey was snubbed, White Tiger
Yeah.
was nominated, and Borat was nominated.
that was
yeah,
pretty
That's
crazy,
pretty
actually.
nuts.
Well, that kind of went along with what a lot of had been predicting, that they didn't think that 3 plays were going to get in, and 3 didn't. Only 2 did. So that was at least that was a good prediction. The White Tiger was definitely always working its way up there very quickly.
Oh, and then I
The
wanted to
PGA nomination for Borat 2. Go ahead.
I want to ask about if you know any reason for like the Tenet snubs, because I think we were hearing that the BAFTAs were having a screener issue. I saw an article that said that Warner Brothers like didn't get the movie onto the Oscar streaming platform, and I think that never ended up happening. Like, is there rumors? People say it's because like Warner Brothers has a problem with Nolan now, and like they were unhappy with Tenet's performance. I mean, what do you think happened there?
You know, it's funny because Tenet seemed like, you know, they were really trying to force this movie into theaters to be the savior of cinema, and it really kind of backfired. You know, it did okay worldwide, you know, where theaters were more open than the United States, but I think they just tried to force something that was never going to happen. And I don't know if voters just reacted negatively to that, but I mean, there were only a couple of categories it was realistically going to get into.
Yeah,
This wasn't Inception, you know, and there were just, you know, there were complaints about the sound all
definitely, yeah.
all over the place, and you know, it got snubbed hard. There were complaints just about that Nolan is really just kind of chasing his own tail now with stories that are so purposely convoluted that the more you try and make sense of it, the less sense it makes. And you get to a point, I think, where it feels like there is an arrogance to it rather than an entertainment to it. So
Yeah,
that would be my thought.
Yeah,
But
I got
visibility,
that from the movie,
to
I
your
would have,
point, visibility was an issue.
yeah, I would have always thought that Tenet was not going to be like a big player, but for, it seems like, I mean, the score is something that I think anybody who I've ever talked to is like, that was one of the best scores of the year. And the cinematography, like, who thinks Trial of the Chicago 7 has better cinematography than Tenet? Like,
Yeah.
just those kind of basic things, I think. I mean, it might have gotten like maybe 2 more nominations if they had tried a little harder, but I don't think it was ever destined to get like anything big.
Yeah, I think score was definitely up there because, once you're a winner and you're kind of in that group,
Yeah.
the music branch loves you. So you kind of just keep getting in. But then, they didn't nominate Alexander Desplat this year, even though I thought he would, because he is one of those guys now.
Mm-hmm. Every year almost for him.
Yeah, but that meant that Minari could get in, so I'm totally happy for that.
That was fantastic. I'm so happy about
Yeah.
that. I mean, Emile Mosseri, I think he could become the next Desplat in a way. I think he's got like so much versatility between like 3 film scores that I've listened to him.
I think he's more
I
like
think so.
who's the
I think he's more
composer?
like Nicholas Britell.
Oh my god, I
Oh, wow.
literally same thing. Yeah, he's more like
Yeah.
Nicholas Britell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you tweeted something about having. Did you see parts of the Underground Railroad? Have you seen like? Because you were saying that
He can't.
You-
he has
okay,
and he can't say it.
but he did say that the score was like some next level.
Well, so
You can tell from the
he
trailer the
just
score
he
was-
just
yeah.
did he just did a South by Southwest interview with Barry Jenkins, where they revealed a whole bunch of the pieces of the score. So this was just online this morning
Okay.
as a part of South by Southwest. But yeah,
And so you've only heard the score, or have you seen parts of the movie?
I cannot
Oh, you can't even
confirm or
say
deny.
yes or no. Okay. Wow.
I cannot confirm or deny.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So foreign film, did you have any films you were really looking to get nominated here? I haven't seen all of them. I plan to see them because I just don't
Yeah.
get all these early movies.
I actually did pretty pretty poorly here.
Yeah, I didn't do the best.
Because, and I don't always, but I anticipated it's a diverse lineup. It represents a lot of countries and continents. It's still very Eurocentric, because 3 out of 5 are. And the total emission of Latin America, Central and South America, was the surprise
Yeah, they had 2 great
Because-
contenders. So
because they had 2 fantastic
What were the
contenders.
contenders? It was,
I'm No Longer Here and La Llorona. We're both really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
La Llorona wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so
Those were the
I had
2 that
I'm No
were-
Longer
yeah.
Here getting it.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise that one of them missed. Better Days is from Hong Kong is probably the biggest surprise inclusion. Nothing else is a surprise inclusion though. Even
What
The
was
Man Who
the-
Sold His Skin from
Yeah.
Tunisia.
I was surprised by that.
I definitely wasn't. That was definitely a top contender, and it is the representation from Africa. And there's only been 5 films ever from Africa, ever.
And 2 of us got in, right?
No.
No,
Really? Wow.
no. France has been doing really, really poorly.
Okay.
It was the king for decades and decades and decades. France and Italy were just like they won everything. They got all the nominations. And for the last like 10 years, France has been doing very poorly here.
And if another round wins, will that be the first? It was a Danish film, right?
Denmark.
So will that be the first Danish film to win that award?
It's it completes the director's circle of Scandinavia, Vinterberg.
Oh.
But yeah, it will be a landmark for Denmark to win, and it's so winning.
France deserves to be doing
at this
poorly.
point. There's no question. I was thinking Quo Vadis Ida it has great reviews coming out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it now. But the fact that it got a director nomination, there's just no way that anything else can win.
I said this on, was it the Rotten Tomatoes thing yesterday? I think that if we had been in the old version of voting, where it was only by the branch, then another round would lose. and Kobata Saida would be winning.
The old version, is that only the branch votes on the winners?
They vote on the nominees and the winners.
Oh, when did that stop?
That was
I wasn't even aware of that.
that was 15 years ago. So it was just after the era of like Amelie and Pan's Labyrinth losing, who were the populist films that got, you know, other nominations. And the foreign film branch, like the documentary branch, are really snooty and kind of full of themselves, and they really don't like populist films. So they will go for the one that is not. And then the rules changed and the entire body gets to vote. So pretty much whatever is seen the most is going to win.
Yeah. And for animated, we know that category has opened up to everybody for voting, which I think is kind of dumb, because I like that they nominate indie films and animated, since it's just kind of weird just to give all the nominations to blockbuster animated films, because they already do well. Like, they don't really need that boost a lot of the times. But do you think we saw, I mean, I guess this year was hard to tell.
Shaun the Sheep was a little...
Yeah, Shaun the Sheep was more indie, I guess.
Well, then Crudes.
For the US at
sure.
least, than Crudes.
Yeah, I had Crudes in over Shaun the Sheep.
Yeah, that seemed like a really safe bet. I wasn't willing to go against it.
No, it hit PGA, and I mean, it hit everyone too, and they finally let go of their not voting for, you know, sequels. They're okay with that now. So I thought that's where it was going to go. But we have, you know, a really good lineup. And the first time that 2 Pixar movies have ever gotten it the same year.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Wow, really?
Because they keep snubbing like the bad ones.
Monsters University, Finding Dory, yeah. I think that yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they used to really hate sequels, and then they didn't.
Yeah. Do you want to close it off soon, or
we probably should. It's almost 4. Unless I don't know if Erik has anything he wanted to talk about, or anything he thinks is really interesting about the nominations or anything.
You know, I'm really just, like I said, I generally love these nominations. I think they're pretty fantastic. I'm certainly excited for all of the things that were the firsts, or, you know, stat breakers, or the history piece on what I felt was the best of history. And they're not, you know, like always great things. Most of the broken stats are kind of really lousy and depressing ones. Like, you know, Best Actress finally having 2 Black actresses for the first time in 50 years. It's crazy. It's awful. Wow. And Best Actress nominees from the same film.
I think it's the first time a movie got nominated for both leading acting categories but missed the picture nominee.
Yeah, so there's all kind of the most fun to look at.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite part is be using the. I know some people
and how people view, like, always looking for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but nobody thought that there would be like
make that
sort of like the sort of like how people were, you know, randomly got behind like Song Kang Ho last year, but it was like people were sensing based on like, weird outlier happened once. We don't tend to go for those, do we?
No, it becomes really
even Alan Kim, I think, was really like reasons for the oh you did. I mean, you didn't lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. No wash.
Just as good as
that was awesome.
Apparently, our stream like in the last line, but anyway, really fun. I don't know if there are any others that you think are interesting this year that you didn't share, or if you got them all.
Let me look, because there's some really fun stuff. Okay,
I mean,
speaking of box office, this is a silly but a really funny one. It's only the 4th movie in 44 years after 3 Men and a Baby, Spider-Man 3, and The Hunger Games.
Specific.
There's a lot of super specific ones. And then my silly tweet from yesterday, which ended up Oscar nominations now.
Who did that?
We just talked about Short Turn 12 earlier, which is kind of, you know, moving in that. This went 5 for 5 at the Globes and Oscars 2 years in a row. There's a lot of really fun stuff with hit a lot of firsts. Zhao hit 4 firsts, which is bananas. American Best Director to be also nominated for editing.
Does she have the most
first
nominations?
Yeah. So she's has all of the like old now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's he's the oldest lead actor nominee.
Four of his nominations are from the 90s, and 2 of them are from this decade.
Yeah, he's the first person to have back-to-back nominations. Obviously, Glenn Close, you know, he extended her own record.
Ellen Burstyn would have had a record, I believe.
Ellen Burstyn, like grandma old ladies fighting for an Oscar, which would have been pretty fun. Sound nomination is the first in 10 years for an animated film. And then score too, first in 10 years.
First in 11.
Is it 11?
Because Toy Story, it was Toy Story 3 that got the sound nomination, so it would have been a year back, I think.
Yeah, and then score was 2010 in How to Train Your Dragon.
I was thinking of Up. Never mind.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know.
There, like I said, there's fun stuff, and then there's really depressing.
All right, well, that's a good place to cap it, I guess. Hopefully, it's not still like glitching and stuff, but
I hope not.
Yeah, it's just the ending. So people got a good meal out of it. But anyway, thanks Erik for coming on again. And website is AwardsWatch. Follow him on Twitter. We'll post his Twitter page in the description as long as with the website. Anything else you want to shout out?
All fun, and your energy and your passion is reminds me of myself and how much
you.
Very much so. So I love that.
He has to go young. I think it's just current you.
No, it's young me. So I'm just feeding off of your soul right now, which you don't even know.
I actually have been feeling that, and I've been okay with it.
If you're feeling a little weak right now, that's the reason why.
Yeah, like a little drained.
You're gonna go take a post Erik nap. That's what we call it at this point.
Something like that. But yeah, no, I just think you guys are fun, and you keep kind of building and getting more recognition and notoriety, and so I hope it just kind of keeps going in that direction for you because you're fun.
Thank you. We hope so too. Also, another Oscar stat that's been broken is that Erik is the second ever guest, the only returning guest, to grace the Oscar for YouTube channel. The first, and then we'll have. Well, he's gonna threaten us if it's ever the only. So we have to be careful about that. Yeah. But
suck it, Matt Neglia.
Yeah. He can't come back because Eric's gonna block him. So
yeah, he can't come back now.
All right, well, thanks, Erik. It's a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank you.
And we'll do this again. I don't know when, but we'll do it again.
Yeah, sounds
good. See you down the road.
All right. Aw.
Okay.
But in a good way.
Oh, that was cute. The Nomadland send off.
Oh, okay.
All right.
It was a cute on, not a sad on.
Just say thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Erik, ask him a question right now.
Uh-oh. What am I gonna ask? Oh, this is the thing where I'm supposed to ask.
Well, dude, we didn't prepare you.
No, you didn't. You put me on the spot.
But are you? Will you be the next guest on our show?
That's good. Wait, am I supposed